Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Peak Pod. I'm Paige. I'm the owner of Peak Beauty Studio. I'm a licensed esthetician. We're located in Boca Raton, Florida. You know the spiel. Thanks for tuning in. I'm really excited about this. I've been wanting to start a podcast for literally years now, and now we're doing it. So we're actually doing the thing. A little bit about Peak. We are very much results driven. Essentially, at the end of the day, we're a spa. We're a storefront. We're a fully functioning spa. We have clients all day in, all day out. My girls are always booked and busy. I'm always booked and busy. Our day-to-day doesn't look like what it looks like on social media. We are full-time service providers. I feel like that's not shown enough when it comes to social media, is the actual ins and outs of what it is to be a service provider in this industry. But I also want to talk about things business and beauty related, anything that has to do in the realm, anything that has to do with what we do. I've always felt that there was a gap in this industry when it came to ways to learn. Everything's pretty buy my masterclass, buy my PDF download, and it doesn't really give much insight. So I really want to rewrite that story. And I feel like the best way to do that is to be vulnerable with you guys. So I want this podcast to be more than just, hey, let's talk about why acne forms in the first place. No, I want it to be real. I want to talk about humanizing this industry and humanizing providers, humanizing clients. I want to talk about all the fun entrepreneurial business ventures and everything in between. I never knew that this is what I wanted to do for a living. And I find that really funny because at the end of the day, it's a full circle. I'll tell you the story. So when I was, let's go all the way back. When I was 11 years old, I was in middle school. Actually, let's go back farther. In elementary school, I got sick a lot. And we had this, I don't even know, a recurring illness in my family. And I was having a spiking fever every 2 weeks. So I was in and out of school in elementary school. And then on top of that, I really don't know why, but I just didn't get along with the kids. I had a couple best friends, but they were friends with almost everyone. And all of the other people, all the other kids didn't really care to be friends with me either. I remember this one moment where I was on the playground and I saw these girls kicking the dirt onto this other girl's shoes. And she was backed up to a fence. And seeing that, I hated it. And mind you, I'm 8 years old. My first reaction is to run up there, stand in front of her, and say, if you're going to kick it on her, you're going to kick it on me too. And after that, everything was downhill. I very quickly started to be less and less included. I wasn't included to birthday parties. I wasn't included to hangouts, play dates, everything in between. And that gave me really bad anxiety. So I was diagnosed with anxiety already. I was diagnosed at 6 years old, which is so crazy because that's literally a baby. And by the time I was 8 and going through all of these issues, it just became crippling. And then you throw in that me and my siblings just kept getting sick. And then it left us with something called, it was called fifth disease. And it was like a rash on our entire body. And we would get fevers and we were just so up and down, which actually left me and my family with chronic joint pain, which we'll get into that. But long story short, I was very rarely in school between the mental and the physical in elementary school. And then when it came to middle school, I was like, okay, great. New start, fresh start. And then I started to experience stomach issues. I was always a very tiny girl. I was, 4'9". I weighed 80 pounds. And when I started to have these stomach issues, I couldn't stomach food. We would go out to dinner, or I'd go to the movies with my best friends and my mom would have to come pick me up. I'd be out to dinner, like, I don't know, holiday dinner, Mother's Day dinner, and I'd spend the whole dinner in the restroom. And before I knew it, I started to really lose weight. The anxiety was kicking in. I was getting picked up from school early. I was leaving hangouts early, all the things. And I started to fall back into, I've missed so much. I'm so scared to go back. So for middle school, I was honestly not there. I remember each year, when the year started over, I would say to myself, okay, it's a new year, it's a fresh start. I'm not going to let myself leave school. If I get sick, I get sick. I'll be sick in class. I don't care. If I'm anxious, I'm going to power through. And time again, every single year, something happened. When the stomach issues were at its highest, I was bedbound. And when I was bedbound, I had teachers coming to my house after school, and they would sit on the edge of my bed and they would teach me. I was too sick to physically go into class. And this really left a lot of anxiety and depression, because you're a preteen and you're stuck in bed and you're miserable and you don't feel good and you can't keep food down and you're losing weight and all the things. So I started watching YouTube and baking shows. Those were my two favorite ways to escape. On YouTube, I got into makeup tutorials and I was obsessed. I watched makeup tutorials all the way through till I was, I'd say 19 years old, maybe even 20. And then the baking, I actually ended up making a little bit of a business out of it. It started off as being called Paige's Pastry Palace. And then from there, it became Cakes by Paige Colson when I had my little rebrand because I was getting older. But I was, what started off as just copying Cake Boss in the kitchen, I started making pastries and full-blown wedding cakes at 13, 14 years old. And I was fully running a business out of my parents' kitchen. So I guess you could say I always had the business side to me. As far as makeup goes, that was more of a hobby. So I kind of looked at baking as a hobby turned into, or a passion turned into a business, which, it's kind of where I am today. And I looked at makeup as a hobby. I never in a million years thought that it would ever become my career or I would be within that same field. When I was 13, I went to a chain wax center and I was getting my eyebrows done for my bat mitzvah and she waxed off the front of my eyebrow. And I was devastated. So in turn, I never let someone touch my eyebrows again to this day. I actually ordered a wax pot off of Amazon and I would literally sit and use like the back of a makeup brush as my applicator. And I would just reuse the same one, redunking in the pot. It was disgusting. But I was obviously not a professional. I didn't know what I was doing, but that's how dedicated I was to the thought of never letting someone else touch my eyebrows again. I started doing my brother's eyebrows. At that point, we got the wooden spatulas. We started being a little more sanitary about it. And throughout high school, I would do my friends' eyebrows here and there. Come close of high school, I was a 2020 graduate, which means that my senior year, COVID hit. I was already homeschooled senior year. And because these issues that I was having with the anxiety and depression, all the mental health struggles, followed me through all of my schooling years. When I was in my senior year, COVID hit and I was stuck at home and I was already homeschooled, but after school is when I would see my friends and I was in a long distance relationship at the time. So I would spend my weekends not in this city. When COVID hit, everyone was so upset and I was excited. And don't get me wrong, COVID was awful and it was scary and it took the life of my mom's best friend and my own grandmother. So I know, it wasn't a good time, but I was excited to not be the only girl that was homeschooled. And from there, I just continued baking. I continued to do the cakes and everything like that. And I was also excited because this meant that kids were putting off going to college. And I never wanted to go to college. I always said it. I was like, I'm not going to college. I'm not going to college. I'm not going to college. And my parents hated that I would say that. My dad was a little bit more okay with the idea. My mom was not happy. She was like, you are going to college. You are getting a degree. And then when I realized I had an opportunity to be like, well, why would I go to college? Everyone's stuck in their dorms anyways. It's not the real experience. I'll take a gap year. And it worked in my favor and I got to take that gap year. During that time of being in the gap year, I was putting off what I was hoping would be a time frame to figure out what I could do to not have to go to college. My gap year started to come to a close and I was getting more and more nervous. So I told my mom, I want to pursue baking and I don't want to go to a 4-year university. I want to go and apply to culinary programs across the country. So that's what we did. And I ended up getting a full scholarship to a school called Johnson & Wales for their culinary program. Summer of 2021, my family got COVID. We had gone a full year and some change without getting it. And then we got COVID. And this was 2 months before I was supposed to go off to this program. We were so sick. My mom ended up in the hospital with double pneumonia. I was sick with a fever for 6 weeks. We all just continued to test positive. We all had severe symptoms. I had the worst joint pain. Whenever I get sick, it triggers the inflammatory response in my body. And the first thing that starts to hurt are my joints. And my whole body was throbbing. But I was sick for 6 weeks. Once we all started to be on the mend, we were staying locked in our rooms because we didn't know that you could come out at that time, once the quarantine period was over. So we stayed locked in our bedrooms, even from each other, because we were like, well, what if we pass it back and forth? And that's why it never goes away. No one knew what the heck was going on during the pandemic. But I was so bored. And I started to realize I don't want to go to this culinary program. I just said I would go because it would make my parents happy. And, the sleep schedule got messed up. I ended up going on Pinterest. I found a photo of a woman with a 3D spider crawling out of her eye. And I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And makeup was always my hobby. So what did I have in my bedroom? A face painting kit. And what did I do at I think it was 6 a.m. as the sun was starting to come up. I painted that 3D spider, but I made it my own. I had it coming out of my eye or something. I'll put the photo. The photo it's on my website, I think, still to this day. But something sparked in me, and I was like, oh my God. Hello, it's right in front of me. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a makeup artist. And then I started to run with that idea. And I was always so into the idea of The Walking Dead and working on the production team for Netflix and all of those things. So I enrolled in beauty school. I called my parents the next morning from my room, FaceTimed them, and I was like, I'm not going to the culinary program. I'm going to beauty school. And they were like, I'm sorry, what? Where did this come from? And I was like, I'm going to work for Netflix and Universal, and I'm going to turn people into zombies for a living. My parents were like, damn, it's kind of cool. They were on board. As soon as I was better and negative, started the program. And in order to become licensed to touch skin, I don't even know if this is true, but the school told me that I needed to have an esthetician license. So after I finished the makeup course, I had to do the skin course. I had no interest in doing skin. None. I thought the people who wanted to do skin were boring. The eyebrows I was always into. I was like, oh yeah, like I'll learn better techniques for waxing my own brows, but I want to be a makeup artist. Let me tell you, I stepped foot into that program and I fell in love. I saw so many avenues that my life could go in with this as my career choice. I graduated. I started working in the industry before I even graduated, actually. I was working at a blow dry bar. I worked at a med spa. I worked at a hair salon. And then I want to say I worked for about 6 to 8 months at a med spa before I decided to leave and go solo. During that 6 to 8 months, I started a little suite out of my apartment at home. And that's why Peak started as a home-based business. I would take people after hours. I would work a 9 to 5, and then out of my house, I would take clients. And mind you, I think I had like 5 people that would come to me consistently, if that. But I got so excited at the idea of being my own boss and making things truly my own. And with that, I took the leap. And was I ready? No, I was not ready. But I did it anyways. I opened my salon suite. Things were slow. So I started doing social media. I was doing TikTok after TikTok. I would sit and scroll in the suite and I was like, what can I do to get my name out there? And I noticed my algorithm was all educational videos. And that was because I never had a mentor. And my school taught us zip, zilch, nada, nothing. So I was completely self-taught and I had to teach myself everything that I wanted to know. So when I was in the suite and I had no clients and I noticed my algorithm was all educational content, I was like, hey, I can make videos on the education, the knowledge that I have, and I could share that with people. Maybe that'll work. I really did it because I found it fun. And then I got a little bit of traction, and it was from other estheticians. And in the beginning, you're trying to get people in the door. You're discounting your services, yada, yada, yada. I ended up doing a $99 promo for my Brow Trio, which is the lamination, tint, and shaping, which, by the way, I need to trademark the name Brow Trio because I am the OG. So if you see Brow Trio, hey, that's Peak. That got traction. And I started to get people in the door. But you know what happened? They did the $99 trio and then they never came back. Discounting your services brings you nowhere. It brings you nowhere. From there, I continued to do social media. Throughout that year being in the suite, I started to get a lot of traction. And I just noticed things were starting to pick up and I was getting momentum and I was starting to build clients and I started to venture into more advanced treatments. I started doing hydrofacials. I started doing bio-repeal, chemical peels. I was starting to have a retail shelf. I was noticing that I had at least 1 or 2 clients a day, 5 days a week. And then it started to become 3 or 4 a day. And before I knew it, I was getting really booked. I was nowhere near fully booked, but I was getting to a point where I was like, okay, you know what? This is working. Then I posted a video of my cousin. I was shaping her brows, and it was my first demo video that I had ever made of me performing a brow service. It's still pinned on my TikTok today because it's how I got to where I am, but that video has, I think, 9 or 10 million views on it. That is what skyrocketed me. From there, everyone in my city, everyone in the surrounding cities was booking me for brows. And then from there, it's all about, getting them to return. It's giving them that good experience. I ended up expanding to the storefront. And during this time, I did a whole build out. I did it took 14 months between the permits, the construction, installing all the plumbing and the lighting, the electrical, going through all of the inspections, decorating the place. I had to fire my interior designer halfway through the job because she was awful. So I ended up doing all of it myself. And my architect was literally nowhere to be found. And it was quite literally a disaster. And then as soon as it was done, I moved in the same day. I moved in overnight. I refused to take one singular day off of work with my clients because I moved in the thick of season. I think it was November 24th was my first day at peak of 2024. And the night before we moved everything in, I was here till, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 in the morning. Went home, got a couple hours of sleep, woke up, and had a full day of clients here. And it was like a breath of fresh air. With owning a storefront comes a lot of responsibility. So you get into the business side of things and you notice, wow, I'm not just a service provider now. I got to pay attention to the finances. I got to pay attention to the books. I hired a team. Now I have to deal with payroll. I have an accountant. I'm paying monthly sales tax. I'm doing all the things, right? There's so much red tape when it comes to licensing and regulation and everything like that. And then on top of that, you're also a full-time service provider. So I completely understand the stress of going solo and then expanding. But I will say it's so rewarding. A year into being solo, or not even a year, I would say come April, May of 2025, I started to feel like I was completely hitting a wall. I started to get severely burnt out. I was working 6 days a week and I was so burnt out. I had a staff here that just was not cutting it. And having them work for me actually made my job harder because I was stressed about them, servicing all the clients, fixing the books, apologizing to clients for the behavior of my staff. Like there was just so many things going on that, you didn't see on social media. Social media is like rainbows and puppies and unicorns, and it's just not that. It's real, and it's real life. And I hit a wall and I was so ready to throw in the towel. I was exhausted. And I realized I need help. And it's okay to say that you need help. To go from being solo for 3 years and then expanding and thinking, oh, I just need a helping hand for the desk and maybe one person renting a room here, to go to, from that to, I need a full staff. It's a difficult realization to make when you're a type A personality and you really are so used to doing everything yourself and just relying on yourself. So I put some feelers out there, made a post, kind of like a call to action of, hey, we're hiring full team. I wanted 3 positions. I wanted a receptionist, an esthetician for skin, and an esthetician for brows and lashes. I cannot tell you how many resumes, how many emails, how many DMs I received. I was so beyond overwhelmed. I really thought, this is the end of peak. And instead, it's my favorite word, we pivoted. I found the 3 girls that I loved the most, that I felt I could really rely on, and I hired them. And I really think that that's when the business started to truly thrive, because we all started to find our footing. We started to become a little girl group, and it was going so well. And that season was our busiest season yet. And before I knew it, I was fully booked. My girls were getting booked. I closed my books off to new clients. And, it's been a year since then. There's now 3 of us here. And I wouldn't change it for the world. The way that it is so perfect. And, we have come so far. And I noticed throughout all of this and building the socials, growing on social media, I might have less than 100,000 followers on TikTok, and I might only have 20K on Instagram. To some people, that sounds like astronomical numbers, and to others, it sounds minuscule. To me, it doesn't mean anything to me. And not trying to sound ungrateful, but I don't look at it as like people follow me. I look at it as like, this is my community. And when I get the messages from other estheticians telling me that they look up to me and they love my content and asking me questions and asking for advice, that is what hit me like a ton of bricks and made me feel something I've never felt in my life before. And that was just a level of gratitude that I have never experienced before. I was so unbelievably emotional when I got that first DM. And I realized, oh, like there are real humans on the other side of this screen that are watching. And then I realized everyone's asking me the same questions. How do you get started? How do you get booked? How do you expand? How do you pass off clients? How do you hire a team? How do you trust them? How do you run the books? How do you do the business side of things? How do you do the finances? How did you do a build out? All the questions. And I realized we learn nothing in school. We literally learn nothing. They don't teach anything to do with business. They only teach the old school stuff. Now, of course, every school is different and every state has different regulations. So I'm not asking for them to teach us how to microneedle. That's fine. When we buy a device, the rep will teach us from the company, but give us a little something. I swear I literally learned how to wash a face. I learned that this entire career is probably going to be laundry. And I mean, I'm pulling a blank because I don't even know what I learned. I literally learned nothing. And then I just dove right in and I realized, wow, there's such a gap. I thought back to when I first started TikTok and I was like, those educational videos, I was teaching myself because no one had taught me. And I never had a mentor. I never had someone that I could trust and rely on and learn from. And so I started to attempt to fill that gap. I started offering virtual mentorships and I started doing one-on-one trainings, and it made me feel so fulfilled. So that's where we are today. I really love my story. I feel like it is a full circle moment. I never thought that I would be where I am today, but it's just everything and more. And now I'm just ready to share more with the world, and I'm ready to connect to you guys on an even deeper level. With that being said, this industry is not all puppies and sunshine and rainbows. I have probably experienced more negatives in the past 5 years than I have in my life. And this is coming from someone who has been bullied repeatedly, someone who has struggled significantly with their mental health, with their physical health. Let me tell you, this industry opened my eyes to so much good, but also a good amount of bad. When I was my first ever negative client experience was in the salon suite. I had a client come in and she inquired about a buyer appeal series. I gave her a quote. She said she's going to think on it, and she left. It was about 3 to 6 months between when I quoted her to when she came in and wanted to follow through. And I had upped my prices between that point. And she came in and she said, I want to do the buyer appeal. You quoted me this. And I said to her, well, I changed my pricing. My pricing has gone up. She said, well, that's bad customer service. You should honor the original pricing that you gave me. And that's when I realized my first mistake. If I give someone a quote, it should have an expiration date. The reason why that experience was bad was because this woman was not very kind to me. I tried to give her a discount instead. I apologized. She told me to I think she said something along the lines of, wow, the fact that it's showing that you didn't go to school because that's the same number as the original quote. And I was like, oh, it is? Guys, it's no secret that I suck at math. It's absolutely no secret. I've sucked from the beginning of time. I will be awful at it till the day I die. That's what calculators are for. I tickle people's faces for a living. I wax people's eyebrows. I sit and film podcasts in the middle of a workday. It's not necessary for me to know off the top of my head what a random percentage off of a random number is. Whatever. This woman was so rude to me. And I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to be like, excuse me, that wasn't very kind. Did you? Or rather, I should have looked at her and just said, did you mean for that to come off the way that it did? Because that kind of hurt my feelings. Kind of makes people step back and be like, oh shit. I mean, they're either going to look at you and say, yeah, I meant to come off that way. Or they're going to say, oh, you're right. That wasn't, I didn't mean it like that. Let's start over. You know, like call people out on their bullshit. Like I said, humanize the industry. We are people and so are our clients. You're a doll. Thank you. On a side note, if you haven't tried the Anfisa lippies, you have to. We just brought them on and they're the best things I've ever used in my life. I've been using it for like 6 to 8 months before I actually got it on my shelves. Just because I was lazy and I don't know why I never brought it on, but oh my God, it's so good. Okay, back to my story. So she really just made me feel bad about myself. And I learned my first lesson, which was always put an expiration date on anything that, you sell or you quote or offer or whatever it is. That was my my toes getting dipped in the water of the industry. Now I think I have a backbone that's pretty damn strong, because when you have a clientele base of over 1,500 clients, you're going to experience some unhappy ones, and it's just inevitable. And if you think that you're going to be every single client's cup of tea, you are not. I can promise you that. And not every client is going to be your cup of tea. And that's when setting boundaries are really important. I had to set a boundary with a client because she was late to her appointment. And then when she decided to demand over the phone that I serviced her anyways, and then she came in, I took her, I squeezed her in, I did what I could at the appointment, and then afterwards I pulled her to the side and I was like, and I thought we had a good relationship. I was like, hey, I don't want issues. I love servicing you, but I just have to tell you that, demanding me to service you didn't make me feel very good. And this girl looked back at me and she goes, that's a you problem. I'm like, oh shit, people are cutthroat. And, she ended up leaving and was no longer my client. But I was so proud of myself in that moment because I set a boundary of, yeah, I'll service you, but speak kindly to me and my staff. This industry has made my backbone so strong. And not just with clients, but I've had experiences with other people in the industry too, if you guys really want to get into it. When I first hired the first 2 girls that worked for me before my current group of my current team, I actually got threats from another esthetician. And mind you, we're in different cities, we're in different zip codes. And she DM'd me on Instagram with a voice note that was like 5 hours long, threatening me essentially in layman's terms of like, kind of like read through the lines a bit, just like coming off as like really aggressive and telling me, if I hire this girl, she's essentially going to have me blacklisted from the industry. One thing about me, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I will admit my faults. I am petty. I am a petty, petty girl. That message made me want to hire this girl 10 times more. So I hired her. And then the threats just kept flooding in. And then my employee at the time started getting threats and it went to court. So trust me when I say this shit happens in this industry all the time. People look at everyone as competition, and it is so crazy to me because, first of all, we are a 45-minute drive from each other. Do I have clients that live in your city? Yeah. Do I have clients that also live an hour and a half north of me? Yeah. Do I have clients that live an hour and a half south of me? Yeah. Do you still have a full book? I don't know. I don't know your books. But what I do know is there's enough people to go around. I don't know why we're looking at each other as competition, and I don't know why we think the ego, that's the word I'm looking for. Like, the ego is crazy. Someone needs to take a chip off that shoulder, because this industry is extremely oversaturated, and it's just going to keep getting more and more oversaturated with the culture of social media and all the things. But yeah, that was wild to me. And guess who's not blacklisted from the industry but is thriving? Me. Hi. But yeah, I've experienced it from all sides. It's just crazy. The amount of drama that comes with this industry, it's not talked about. It's literally, everyone just keeps their mouth shut because they're afraid that if they say the wrong things, that's it. Because cancel culture is so real these days. I don't care. I truly do not care. I'm going to say things how it is. And my parents have said it since the day I was born. They're like, this child has no filter. We hope she grows up to have one, because it's going to bite her in the ass sometimes when she's an adult. I actually kind of took that and turned the whole narrative around. I still have zero filter, and that zero filter has benefited me in a lot of ways because I set boundaries and I stand up for myself. And I say things how it is, so I don't really care. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of downsides to this industry when it comes to the drama and the pettiness. And honestly, all I have to say about that is we're supposed to be friends. We're supposed to rely on each other. We're supposed to be a community. Community over competition, always. I don't look at anyone else in this industry as competition. Hell, I just did a one-on-one training with someone who is literally 10 minutes away from me and wants to do exactly what I do. I actually got asked, my family asked me, they're like, oh, but she's kind of your neighbor. You really want to give her all of your insight? And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I literally don't care. There's enough people to go around. Another thing about setting boundaries is that boundaries don't just come don't just follow or apply when it comes to personalities clashing, but it also comes to policies. People will walk all over you. This industry, especially, I shouldn't say especially the older demographics, but cancellations, no guests, no pets, rescheduling, handing off your appointment to someone else in your family that wants it. These are things that you could do at a random nail salon and they don't really mind. But when it's a small business and in this day and age, policies are more applicable. And, people will think that it won't apply to them. And people will think, well, I've been coming to you for 2 years, so, it's okay that I just didn't show up. No, it's not. And I keep boundaries with my policies for sure. I don't think that keeping policy makes you a bitch. I think it makes you a boss, and I think it makes you a business owner. And I think it makes you strong, and it helps you set boundaries. So yeah, at the end of the day, I got bills to pay. I've got a team to pay. I've got bills to pay. Hello, this is my business. And if you don't come in this industry, you don't make money if you don't have a client in your chair. With that, that's where you talk about branching off and starting to find other forms of income. And, that's when, doing social media is a great thing, because then you start doing the brand deals and all the things. And don't get me wrong, I've done a brand deal or two, but never for something I don't believe in, never for something that I don't use. I've been asked by many big brands to do a brand deal, and I have turned them the F down. It was good money too, but I just don't care, because I am keeping it real no matter what. No matter where this industry takes me, whether this is as far as we go, which honestly, if this is as far as we go, I am more than blessed and more than happy. Or if, I don't know, I end up being I have a skincare line of my own and it's as big and as popular and as a household name as Skin Better Science. I will always keep it true. But that's where the other streams of income start to come into place. And doing social media, yes, the brand deals are great if you do approach it the right way. I do have a bit of a mixed feelings on that. But, retail and online, selling things online. having an online retail store, having affiliate links, all of these things. There's ways to make money in this industry besides just being a hands-on provider. And that's something that's really important that people should really start doing if they're not already. I've learned education is the best investment. There is no better investment, and it doesn't have to be a financial investment, but your time and your energy. There is nowhere else that you should put as much effort into as gaining more knowledge and getting more education. I'm not telling you to go buy every masterclass that you come across. I'm not telling you to attend every single live webinar that the product lines that you carry are having or hosting. But if there's one thing that is so important, it is to know what you are talking about. I really try to teach myself at least one new thing a day. And this is something that I actually instill with all of my mentees, is at the end of every single day, no matter how big or small, whether it's aesthetic related or not, I want you to look in the mirror and ask yourself, what is something I learned today? One thing. It could be minuscule. It could be, I learned that there are X amount of phases of the moon. I don't even know how many phases there are. Or it could be, I learned that azelaic acid is amazing for rosacea. Something as simple or as complex as it gets, but I do try to teach myself something new every day. And with that being said, I have instilled this on TikTok, on social media, to my mentees, to myself. In the beginning, do not invest in equipment, invest in yourself. And by investing in yourself, that's what I mean, is investing in your education and invest in your technique. Because the fact that I have an Aerolaze, that's not what's pulling people in the door. What's pulling people in the door is my expertise, my knowledge, my will to share that knowledge. The way I love to educate my clients as I service them. The way that I've instilled in my staff to do the same. That's what makes people come in, and that's what makes people come back. That is a lesson that I did not have to learn because I did it the right way from the beginning, and I'm so glad that I did, because I watch people make the mistake of investing in the equipment too soon. It's not a lesson that I've learned, but it is a great lesson to learn in general. At the end of the day, the Peak Pod is just a community. It's a place for anyone in this industry or any adjacent industry that feels that they resonate to trauma dump and to learn and to feel more human and connected, because I really feel like everything online is so posed. We turn into a different persona when it comes to being on social media. And that's just not what our day-to-day is. And I just want it to be real. I want it to be honest. I want us to kind of get back to what this industry was about in the first place. There's so many six-figure this, how to become a six-figure that, how to grow your clientele to 1,000 plus clients in 6 months time, how to make 40 grand in 1 month. Like, you guys, let's be so for real. That's not what this industry is about. This industry is about helping people feel beautiful in their skin, helping people feel more confident, allowing us to connect with people. I just want this industry to feel more human. I want to humanize the industry. That is literally what the Peak Method and the Peak Pod is all about. With that, I want this podcast to be not just me sitting in front of a camera, though we'll have plenty of it. I want to have guests on, and our next episode, we have a guest coming on that I'm really excited for you guys to watch. And that's just going to keep going. We are going to have guests all the time. People who are in the industry who do the same things as me, people who are in the industry that do other services as me, people who do hair, nails, injections, reps from companies, like you name it, I want to have it. Anyone that works in the business realm of empowering women. We're starting to lose touch with reality. So I want to bring it back in using a very modern way of doing so, like a podcast. That's why I really started this in the first place. I was so passionate when I I feel like my whole life has been led by passion. I am that type of girl who, as soon as I lose interest in something, I don't look back. I don't have a second thought of it. It's gone. It's out the window. And I feel like I've literally gone through so many different phases in life. My appearance. I used to have the blue hair and a septum piercing, covered in tattoos. I've gone through all the phases physically. I've gone through different phases with hobbies, with the way I dress, my interests. I'm a chameleon. I have been in so many different positions and feelings, but I just feel like why I really started this in the first place was because I started to feel like I could really find myself. And I could relate to people, and I found something that I was so passionate about. And that's what I want to get back to. That's why I started everything in the first place, was I found something that I was passionate about. And it's cool because this is the first time in my life where my passion hasn't died down. It hasn't burnt out. Every other thing in my life that I've loved at some point or been so into no longer interests me. But this industry and all the ways that it's taking me, I just continue to get more and more excited. And I want to share that, and I want to share more of it. And I want to be able to relate to other people, but I want to give more insight to the realistic side of things. I will say that the one thing that almost made me quit being an esthetician or a business owner in general, it wasn't the negative comments. It wasn't the crazy estheticians in my DMs. It wasn't a client not being happy with me. It was the burnout. I burnt out like crazy last year because I didn't prioritize myself. And this past year, I've worked really freaking hard to do so. I'm in therapy. I'm medicated. I'm doing all the things, okay? I romanticize my day-to-day life. I was just telling one of my mentees about this literally, I think, our session was last night. I was telling her, I was like, if you romanticize even just one thing a day about your life, it is going to make you feel a million times better. And it's going to make you look forward to that. And I gave her an example of one thing that I did that I now love. I threw out every single pair of pajamas that I owned. If it was a ratty t-shirt, if it was shorts that didn't have a matching top, it was gone. It was no longer in my wardrobe. And I slowly built a new pajama drawer of cutesy pajamas that are sets. And now I'm like the queen of a pajama set or a comfy set. But I essentially took a portion of my day that I really love, which is getting cozied up in bed with my kitty and my boyfriend and watching TV or editing content on my phone. And I romanticized it by feeling really luxury while doing it. That's like the smallest things in life make a big difference in your overall perspective. I just feel like it's a great way to self-regulate. It's a way to romanticize life. Continuing is like manifestation. This past year, I've just done so much work on myself, and I feel like it's really showing in my personality, in my day-to-day life, and in my business. So those are just really important things to me that I feel like other people should do too. But yeah, burnout is what made me almost quit. And we didn't. We pivoted. We hired new girls that are freaking fantabulous, and I could not love them more and be more thankful for them. I think what I'm most proud of is the message that I give out. It's not the materials. It's not the fact that I was able to buy a laser, or the fact that I can own a storefront, or the fact that I'm a boss, or I have X amount of money, or this or that, or anything like that. What I'm most proud of is that the message that I'm trying to get across is working. It's spreading, and it's paying off, and I'm seeing it help other people. And I guess that's really what, at the end of the day, no matter what realm you look at, like you look at me as a mentor and a teacher and an educator, and then you look at me as a service provider and a boss. And out of all of those things, the one thing that stands out is I'm helping people. I'm making people feel happy and confident. And so the message of getting across, to just relate and that this is a community and to humanize the industry, that's what I'm proud of. That's what I'm most proud of. I feel like it's paying off, and getting to see the daily DMs from the baby SDs or the SDs that, stepped away from the industry and came back after having kids, the SDs that are in the industry for 20 plus years and telling me that they think I'm amazing and they're proud of me. Or that they think I'm amazing and I'm doing so well. Like, that brings in the whole imposter syndrome, because I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, I am failing, because don't get me wrong, I kick myself so hard every damn day of how can I do better? How can I make things better? I should be doing this. I should be doing that. So don't get me wrong. There's a lot of self-doubt, and because I'm human, but that's definitely what I'm most proud of out of anything. I've been an esthetician coming up on 5 years now. And never in my wildest dreams did I think that this is where I would be today. In another 5 years, I can't even imagine where we'll be. I always say, I just hope that me and my business are both at its peak. And in 5 years, its peak might look really different, and that's okay. And it could be, an entirely different vision. It could be this times 5. It could be more education, because we need that. There's a lot of different ways that this can go, but, in 5 years, I just hope that this message just continues to spread. And I hope that I continue to feel fulfilled. And I just know that whether 5 years from now we're still in this same very spot, or we are in a completely different way of life or a different phase of life, I just want to feel fulfilled, and I want to continue to spread the message of community. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to my first podcast, my first episode. I feel like this was so much fun trying to sharing my story more. I feel like I give little snippets of it on TikTok or on my reels, but I feel like I haven't sat down and just fully talked to you guys. If you enjoyed today, subscribe, turn on post notifications, follow us on Instagram. Please follow my team on Instagram, because they are so amazing and they deserve all of the love and support as well. And maybe you'll see them in the next coming episodes. Thanks for watching. My back. Fuck.